You're watching the Alabama Weather Network.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Drew McCombs with the Alabama Weather Network, and this is your weather briefing for Sunday, September the 7th, the morning briefing. And what we're talking about today and through this week is lower humidity, especially in the northern and central part of the state. So we had a cold front that moved through yesterday, brought some scattered showers and thunderstorms to parts of the state. But after that, we've had some dry air move in, again, especially in the northern half, and it's a little bit drier in the southern half as well, but you can definitely feel it more in the north. A spot shower is possible in the southern part of the state today, nearer to that front, but most places will stay dry. And then we will be staying dry as we get into this coming week as well. Expect there may be a little bit of an elevated chance of a few showers in the southern part of the state, but gradually warming across the board as we head into the week. But generally, it's going to be pretty dry and fairly calm scenario there as we move into this coming week. Looking at our sky cams, got to do the tour here from the top of the state to the bottom of the state, and you can see that we have a beautiful view there in Ardmore with a little bit of a Creek Valley fog there. So some of that's still there. You can see above that blue skies, but got a little bit of fog and settling into those lower spots there. Temperatures at 54 degrees and the dew point's at 53. So definitely can see right there at the state line that the cold front has moved through there for sure with that kind of east-northeasterly wind. Again, showing the evidence of that cold front. Bald Rock looking beautiful out there atop Bald Rock. You can see maybe some fog off in the distance, but nothing right there immediately nearby. The temperature and the dew point both at 60 degrees. And again, we've got some northwesterly winds there with some gusts up to 14, 15 miles an hour. And we're also seeing gusts up to 20 miles per hour in Alabaster. Beautiful view there, sunrise with the colors there in place. So just really pretty day across and pretty morning across the state here. We see the temperatures at 65 degrees. And the winds, again, behind this front are pretty breezy this morning. And so definitely could see some gusts up to 15, 20 miles per hour. Abbeville, beautiful view there as we continue to progress to the south. And you can see the dew point is a little bit up there compared to what we've seen further north. So 68-degree dew point, the temperature's at 70. So still not too bad, but not quite as dry as you see up in the northern part of the state. Dauphin Island, beautiful view there looking south into the Gulf. I mean, the sunrise is just looking nice this morning, and the temperature's at 77 degrees. Again, got gusts up to 23 miles per hour as far as the wind is concerned. And then looking at Fairhope, one of our newest cameras that we have up just in the last week, looking at the pier and over the bay. And you can see just looking both at the flag and at the water that you got a little bit of a breeze there as well. Temperatures around 72 degrees. Current alerts out there, not anything in the state of Alabama at this point, but if you look just to the north, there's some gray there. That's a dense fog advisory for places just to the north and west of the Tennessee Valley. And you know, again, there is some areas of patchy fog here and there, but nothing to rise to the level of issuing any sort of dense fog advisories in Alabama. And looking at the visibility, you can see again most places at 10 miles visibility or more. The only exception there, or the main exception, would be Eufaula down to Barber County has 5 miles visibility, but that's still not super dense. But there's just a little bit of lower visibility there. And like I said, got some creek fog, I'm sure, some valley fog in places, especially in the northern part of the state. That'll quickly burn off as we get through the morning. Now, taking a wider view of the radar here and some of the alerts, so you can see all the showers and thunderstorms have cleared the state at this point, and you can see we have a little bit of that action in the Gulf there, and then you've got a good bit of showers and thunderstorms moving off the east coast, just off the coast of North Carolina, and some also off the coast of the peninsula of Florida, but you can see a few showers left over in Texas there. And if you look down into the Gulf to the south of coastal Alabama, you've got that kind of purple lavender looking alert there. That is a small craft advisory. So again, with the front that's moved through, gustier winds around, it's helping to kind of get the wave action up a little bit so that it's not a great day to get out on the water in a small vessel for sure, out on the open water there. So looking at our temperatures this morning, it's again pretty cool in the kind of that northern edge of the state, the Tennessee Valley, getting down in the upper to mid 50s in some spots. So you can see 58 in Hamilton, 59 in Florence. As you move to the south, it's 65 in Tuscaloosa, and as you get down further to the south, only falling to around 70 degrees or so in places like Thomasville and Monroeville. But again, it's still cooler in general this morning than what we were seeing yesterday. And looking at the dew points, again, you can see that it's definitely a good bit drier north of kind of the 59-20 corridor there with dew points down in the 50s. And as you move further to the south, we're still in the upper 60s or low 70s in most spots. But it just hasn't. The dry air will continue to filter down a little bit further to the south, but we don't expect it to get maybe all the way through because we'll start to get some easterly flow that'll kind of start to bring a little bit of moisture back into the south part of the state as we get into tomorrow. But looking at our current wind gusts, again, like I said, we've got a little bit of a breeze going on this morning, so places generally kind of in 15-20 mile per hour range across a good portion of the state with those wind gusts out there. So nice little breeze to go along with the drier air. As we look at our Futurecast, our Barron 3K model here, you can see that we've got clouds that are in the southern part of the state will start to move out and kind of dissipate as we get later on. Now, a few scattered clouds will reorganize or will kind of pop back up in the afternoon. And again, you see there's a possibility of a spot shower or two in the southern part of the state, but still most places stay dry as the front has cleared the area here. And as we get into tonight, again, expect to be very calm and beautiful night out there. As we get into Monday, it looks like we'll have some clouds moving back in from the east. And again, there could be a few scattered showers along this kind of trough coming in from the east, especially in the southern part of the state, but we expect most places will stay dry, but maybe a few more clouds around tomorrow than what we're seeing today across the state. And as we move into Tuesday morning, looks pretty calm as well, and looks like maybe most of the shower activity would be over into Mississippi if this plays out like this. Again, our forecast wind gust, as we move through, we have some wind gusts up 15-20 miles per hour right now, and as we play this through, again, you can see that that starts to wane a little bit as we get later in the day. So we expect it to kind of stay a little bit breezier right now, but as we get later on in the evening, it looks like in the northern part of the state may kind of pick back up just a little bit in places like Tuscaloosa and Birmingham and Coleman. So again, it'll be kind of a breezy day overall, and even into the evening, still could get some wind gusts. And you can see all the northerly component there. So we continue to have that northerly flow, which will help to pull some of that drier air further to the south as well. So again, we expect those dew points to continue to kind of the lower dew points and the drier air to kind of continue to penetrate a little bit further south today. Looking across the country, again, as far as current alerts are concerned, we've got the dense fog advisory to our north. Not a lot going on in the southeast or eastern part of the country. As you look out west, some of those orange areas are air quality watches. And then as you look to the north, a sign of things to come. You've got some frost advisories and freeze warnings in the far northern part of the state, which, those are the type of alerts that you will see usually at the beginning of the season as it first starts to get cold, as you first start to reach around freezing. So seeing those in that northern tier of the country just means that that's kind of the first time they've started to get into those kind of temperature ranges so far as we've head into meteorological fall. And so again, kind of a sign of things to come, and you'll see some of those kind of move to the south over the coming weeks until eventually we'll get one for us too, but it'll be a little further down the road. Looking at our satellite and radar, again, you can see the front has cleared the state. And again, just some leftover clouds, especially in the southern part of the state, but no rain at this point, and high pressure building in from the north. And you can see it has that kind of far northern Canadian origin here, and that's part of the reason we're having this drier and a little bit cooler air coming in here too. But again, not a massive change or massive cool down, but definitely nice, comfortable, more fall-like feel to the weather. Looking at your severe weather outlooks for today and tomorrow, nothing around here to worry about. Again, not really expecting any thunderstorms with the cold frontal passage, but you do have a little marginal risk there over in parts of eastern Colorado, northeastern New Mexico, parts of Oklahoma, and also Kansas, Nebraska, a little bit of sliver of the panhandle of Texas as well. And then as we move into tomorrow, that moves a little bit to the east, southeast, so it's mainly going to be an Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas deal for tomorrow. As far as excessive rainfall potential, nothing like that we have to worry about here. Again, we're expecting to be pretty dry now here for the next week or so. So you can see those are kind of confined to southern Texas and Peninsula Florida and sort of the coastal Carolina area. So again, we expect to be pretty dry here. And looking at the tropics, it's kind of a big difference from what we've been looking at late last week. We had Invest 91L that was looking like it was likely going to become the next tropical system on the board. And then things just kind of fell apart. It was expected to be moving some conducive conditions, but it actually ended up getting basically just kind of sheared apart, and things didn't quite work out the way that some of the models were trying to show. So, and now we have no chance of development. So the National Hurricane Center had been gradually decreasing that over the last several days, and it's now off the board completely. So again, very quiet in the tropics. Don't even have any sort of invests or anything that we're kind of looking at right now. So as we've talked about, and we're looking at kind of our forecast atmospheric moisture here, and you'll see this is using the global forecast system model, the GFS model, and still not really showing anything on it as well. So we will definitely take it when we're in peak hurricane season, basically at this point, that things are going to stay quiet across the Atlantic, across the Caribbean, across the Gulf as well. And we'll definitely take that this time of year because it's not always that way. Looking at our temperature anomaly, we've looked at this last couple of weekends, really, where we've had these cold frontal passages. And so we expect to be a little bit below normal as far as our temperatures for the next several days. So you can see probably, 4 or 5, maybe 10 degrees in some cases below the typical temperatures. Now, as we get later in the week, we'll see that moderate a little bit. And you see as we get later in the week, we get closer to basically average and eventually could get a little bit above average as we get later on. But again, most of the week will be a little bit below average compared to the normal. And looking at the total moisture, again, we've got this cold front that's moved through. And you can see the northern part of the state is in that blue area, so it's really a lot drier in kind of the northern part of the state versus the southern part of the state, even though the front has passed all the way through. As we play this out and look at the forecast, and this, you can see kind of the dry air gets kind of shunted over to the west, and so we have another little kind of trough, or the front almost kind of moves back to the north a little bit, and you can see that some of the moisture kind of feeds back into the state pretty quickly. So again, we'll still expect to be cooler than average, but some of the driest air does get kind of pushed away, so we may not have quite as crisp of mornings there as we get into the middle part of the week and later part of the week, as this dry air kind of gets pushed over to the west, and we get not extremely saturated air. It's still going to be relatively dry, but it won't be quite as dry as it could have been. But it looks like as we get later in the week, though, could see some dry air sort of kind of backdoor back in from the east along the eastern side of the Appalachians, so we could pull some in from that direction as we get in later in the week. So either way, if we can get some nice cool weather in here, that's as far as I'm concerned, at least I kind of like that. But at the same time, we are getting to the point where we're starting to need some rain in some spots that haven't seen it as much, and so that's something that we have to keep in mind as well, is that we're getting into a dry part of our climatological part of the year, and we're starting to need some rain in some spots. Now, looking at our Futurecast here, day 1 through 5 Futurecast, again, not a lot of rain to talk about here. You can see that that front kind of stalls out, becomes stationary, and just kind of sits there south of us, doesn't try to lift north too much, and we just have high pressure that moves in, and we stay fairly dry. Now, as we get into later in the week there, Thursday, you see a few showers, an approaching front, maybe a few showers starting to kick off north of Alabama, but we will, again, not expect to see much here quite yet. And looking at the rainfall outlook through this coming Saturday, really, really dry out there. You see the northern part of the state looks to see really nothing, and there could just be basically a hundredth of an inch or so possible. So just a trace of a few raindrops, possible in the southern part of the state over the next week or so, but not expecting much at all. Like I said, we're going to be we're in a dry part of the year typically, and it looks like that's what we're going to see here. And looking at your 7-day forecast for North Alabama, that's going to be buried out here. You can see we're expecting maybe to only get into the upper 70s to around 80 degrees for the high today with that drier air mass and the cooler start. And then again, tonight's going to be pretty cool down into the 50s and across the board in the northern part of the state. And then again, we kind of gradually warm a little bit closer to average as we get later in the week, get up into the 80s and then eventually in the upper 80s. But you can see that the lows, again, stay down into the low 60s, which is still not too bad for a morning start, but just really no rain chances as we look at the northern part of the state. And again, we'll be every day. We'll continue to watch it. Might adjust those if things change a little bit, but not looking like that at this point. And then looking at your 7-day for the southern part of the state, again, a small chance of a spot shower today. Still going to be fairly warm because most places still started off relatively warm, so still could get into the low 90s in some spots, but I would think there's also many spots that only get into the upper 80s. And then actually a little bit cooler the next couple of days as you get to a little bit of a cooler start in the morning. And so, again, fairly kind of moderated temperatures there. But, again, 10% chances of a shower maybe on some of those days because you're a little bit closer to that stalled front in the Gulf. But generally not expecting much rain at all in really any part of the state. All right, well, that is your weather briefing for this morning, and we appreciate you watching us and on the Alabama Weather Network, and just stay here for more as we continue to watch the weather throughout the day.